just when I hit record. All right. Man, there's a lot of noise today. All right, guys. We finally got the second developer diary. Oh, they got that same intro. I want to get. All right, here we go. We're gonna check it out, and then I'll try to go over some of the details, and then I'm gonna also talk real quick about a couple of things I did not get to talk about from information that's been recently revealed. I'm sure most of you probably know about it, but I haven't talked about it, so I'll get to that after this. So let's see what this is about. By the way, I hope I don't get any technical issues, but my laptop is not running well, so don't be surprised if I have a couple of hiccups along the way. Try to bear with me.
Hello and welcome to part 2 of our 3-part series on creating NASCAR 21 Ignition. Last time we looked at the cars in the game, but what use would they be without some digital asphalt to drive on? Complete with the official tracks from the 2021 NASCAR Cup Series schedule, each one was built from the ground up so players get the most up-to-date and realistic experience when behind the wheel. Let's take a quick look at 2 tracks that joined the NASCAR calendar in 2021, Nashville and Circuit of the Americas. We brought in a professional track scanning company to get the most data possible. This scan information is the basis of our process of building the track for the game. It can show us every scratch and scuff in the asphalt, every rivet in the barriers, even the texture of the paint on the wall. This information fuels the first step of the process, building the physics mesh so the cars react to every bump on the track. From there, the production is a little more traditional, creating the surfaces and walls, then the infield and outfield, then dressing everything with props and a crowd to make it all feel real. From the garage to victory lane, NASCAR 21 Ignition brings your favorite tracks to life, with every inch being recreated in incredible detail. While the scanning data can show us so much, we needed to see how the tracks actually look so we could represent them in-game as accurately as possible. Our art team went out to the track and took thousands of reference photos so they had the best idea of where certain elements of the track were, such as billboards, sponsor decals, and even the placement of buildings. And when at COTA, our artists were working while the NASCAR Cup Series drivers were doing their test sessions. It takes months to get real-life track data converted into a completed track you see in a video game, and not every circuit is the same. Some may take longer than others to produce. COTA, for example, took longer to complete than Nashville due to its size and complexity to get every detail right. While everything so far sounds pretty complicated and difficult to do, not saying it isn't, but it's not the most challenging thing we came up against in the process of creating these tracks. NASCAR tracks and events feature sponsors and branding all over the place, and these change as the season goes on. So sometimes we don't have much time to get the placements and logos changed, so that's quite the challenge for our art team to come up against, but they've done some stellar work. That's our look at how we built the tracks for NASCAR 21 Ignition. Which track are you most looking forward to race on? Let us know in the comments, and be sure to stick around for our final chapter of our Dev Diary series, where we'll be looking at the people who make NASCAR 21 Ignition what it is. See you next time.
Okay. So, let me. I hope this thing doesn't freeze up. It's been acting up every time I try to do this. Okay, here we go. Let's see. No sound. Oh, here we go. Okay, it's a little delay there. Here we go. So, all right. Let me let this play out a little bit. As you guys can see, they have officially confirmed that the tracks are actually scanned. They're not just rendered off of photographs or video or anything like that. They've actually uh, made the right decision to go out and actually scan tracks to get the most possible detail, so that you get the most possible feedback, right? On the wheel, the tires, the physics, all that stuff. Track scanning to me is a no-brainer. If you are a developer who wants to be taken seriously when it comes to race titles, yeah, track scanning is something that you you have to make that extra step, right? So this is confirmation that they did it. So That's one question we don't have to ask. This looks amazing. Just look at the entire fucking crowd, man. I've never seen uh, a sports game where you have this much detail in the crowd of everybody moving. I'm sure that you're gonna have, you know, a couple of character models doing the same thing here and there. But if you watch Madden or even MLB The Show or even NBA 2K, uh, you see a lot of synchronization. Like guys only a couple of seats away from each other doing the exact same thing. I'm sure that you're gonna get some of that here, and it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. This is background detail, but it looks impressive. Every shot looks amazing. I'm happy, really happy with the graphics. We've asked for AAA level, gaming, and they're doing what we asked. The investment is there. So yeah, they confirm track scanning. Basically, the video is just talking about that. Coda took much longer. Obviously, the road courses are a lot more detailed. They're a lot bigger. There's a lot more differences. But this is cool. All right, let me get forward to something I wanted to point out. All right, well, let me get. Yeah. Okay, here we go. I love this shot, man. It feels so immersive, like you're in the car. Looks good. Now the other. Let me get to, because most of this is just showing you details of the track. There's not a lot to talk about except how awesome this thing looks. I don't care what anybody says. This is impressive. It is important that the game actually looks modern and fresh, and the detail is there. I couldn't be happier with it. So with the graphics at least. Then we're gonna get another shot of the in car. That's what I really want to show. Well, let this play through, and all right, come on. Yeah, it looks good. Here's another shot of that. I just wish they had a point of view between this. This looks great, and the other cockpit view, which is this one. Now, looking at this, honestly, it's not far off from the field of view that I use in iRacing. I have mine set to where the side mirror it just cuts off right here because I do want to kind of see on the side. I don't use triple mirror screens or VR or anything like that. So this is going to give me at least some view of the side. But the other one is I just feel like it just feels a little more immersive. So I just wish we had a distance between this and the other one. And I think that would be perfect. But in either case, I am really happy with this. Here we go. There's some more footage, but I'm going to go to something else I wanted to mention. And it has to do with some of the gameplay footage from Daytona that I wanted to point out. Yeah, this looks good, man. It's just, yeah, you get more cockpit than windshield. Here we got some Bristol. You got some guys on the bottom, some guys on the top. So they said they're still tweaking. All right, let me try to find. Come on, man, don't freeze up on me now. All right, while we're waiting for this thing to come on. All right, in either case, they did confirm that they're still tweaking the AI, especially at the restrictor plate tracks. The first thing that people noticed was how the car, man, this thing is fucking taking forever. What's going on? Yeah, I'm sorry, guys. My laptop is freezing up on me. So while we wait for that to load up, as I was saying, there they go. There you go. Oh, god damn, man, this is embarrassing. All right. Um, I want to try to show you. I don't like talking about something without actually showing you what I'm talking about. I tried cleaning the computer up, and it's still. You can see there's other videos, other guys, which I'm gonna check out. Tracks are laser scanned. I want to get to some of the gameplay. All right. Well, let me look at Sloppy Joe's video. I just want to show you a couple of quick. No, it's not in here. I'm just gonna confirm that the 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 ability to mess with the setups in the car is gonna be great. I love it. I love not having to, wait till you actually enter the pits to mess with that stuff and try to do it at light speed. That's great. You're gonna have your basic wedge, air pressure, um, adjustments when you hit so you can do this as you're racing at your, pace, and also while you're feeling the car out. And you might feel like, okay, I'm kind of late in the run. You know what? Maybe I could make an air pressure adjustment that affects that. Maybe take a half pound out the right front so that the car comes in a little later, depending on how the car feels. It's things like that I really think are going to add to the game, which I really like. But we also, I think it hasn't officially been confirmed yet, but it seems like the word is we're only going to have the man. I really fucking hate talking without showing you. All right, let me see gameplay. Hold on. I think I'll find it now. I don't want to go through all that. I want to show you Giovanni's video real quick because I'm going to show you the other thing I wanted to talk about. But speaking of the setups, we're going to have the 5 presets, and then as you race in the race, you're going to be able to, on the lower left here, you're going to have your adjustments where you can go as you're racing, make your adjustments so that when you pit, all you got to worry about is not speeding in the pits. Another thing that has been confirmed is that we're going to have presentation in the pits. Like there's going to be, you know, uh, you're going to see your crew working on the car. If you have to fix damage, you're going to see them actually trying to fix damage. I love details like that. Presentation has been lacking in games going, I mean, for the past 10 years. We just haven't really had a good level of presentation. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what they're going to do with that. And I am excited about that. I know there's some people, no matter what these guys do, they're going to focus on what's not there. They're going to, instead of appreciating what's there, there is a tendency to do that. So I'm just going to tell people, in my opinion, I am more excited about the things they actually are trying to do with the first game than I am upset about what's not in the game. There are some disappointments. Obviously, we wish we had Truck and Xfinity in the game. Uh, and obviously, having a custom setup menu is something that is going to have to be in the game. Now, it hasn't been officially confirmed as far as I could tell, but that is the rumor. It does seem like maybe it's just going to be that slider system, but I don't think it's going to be as bad as people think. I think the fact that You can still make air pressure, wedge, tape, things like that as you're in the race to fine tune one of your presets that you select. I think it's not going to be the end of the world. I think that obviously going forward, we're going to want those custom setups, and I'm 99.9% sure that motorsport games is going to bring that. Now, another thing I think that's important to point out. I think I brought it up before, but I'm not sure if I did. People got to keep in mind that these cup cars that we're going to have in this game when this game releases, this is the last year for these cars. This is not going to be a thing going forward in the series because we have these next gen cars coming. For those of you who don't know, these next gen cars are nothing like these cars. They not only look way different, the mechanics of these cars are different in many ways. There are similarities. You're still going to have shock, spring packages, but the 17-inch wheels mean that the tires are going to have less sidewall. The sidewall on the tire is shorter, which means they're going to be stiffer. Okay, it's not going to have the same pliability of a 15-inch wheel, which has a taller sidewall on the tire. So air pressure adjustments are going to be different. And I personally believe that, let's say, a half pound air adjustment is going to be less noticeable with the next gen car than it is with this current cup car, because it's less sidewall and they're stiffer. So it's going to take, it's not going to be a one-to-one change. But those are just the things that they share in common. The things they don't share are like with the rear suspension. These cup cars use a solid rear axle. It's all one piece. So the axles and the rear gear, it's all in one housing. So these cars have a track bar which attaches from the body of the car and to the solid rear axle. The next gen car has an independent rear suspension, which means each the left side and the right side are independent of each other. So what you have is a center box which has the center rear gear. Then you have the two axles which are floating on their own. Okay, so it's a modern suspension. Even today's cars, most of them, especially uh, not the bottom end models, but the higher end models use independent rear suspension. Almost all vehicles now. You still got pickup trucks, some SUVs. There's still a lot of vehicles that use the old-fashioned solid rear axle, and I might be wrong, but I think even the Ford Mustangs still use that solid rear axle. So there's it's still out there, but my point is that these next gen cars are not going to be set up the same way. If you're in iRacing and you look at a setup page for the next gen car, there is a lot of differences. So, my point is, for them to put these custom setups in the game, remember every single thing you change in the custom setup page where you can get in really deep with anti-roll bars, shock, spring packages, dampers, all kinds of things um, that you can adjust is supposed to have an effect on the car. That kind of stuff does take a lot of programming. It's not just like, hey, let's just give them an option page where you could make your own custom setup. Well, you have to be able to translate that to actual physics on the car. That's, to me, I mean, I might be wrong. I'm not a game developer. These are the areas of the game where I feel like it's complicated. Just like programming AI, which I'm going to get to in a second. These are, to me, the most complicated parts of video game development. To get the actual calculations of these things to work with the coding to produce or translate to, like, on track uh, behavior. So the next gen car is way different, and I'm only guessing here. And you know what? I might be wrong. This hasn't been confirmed. Maybe there is a custom setup page that, and maybe they haven't revealed that. I don't know. Or maybe they're planning to add it, after the release of the game. None of this is confirmed. This is purely speculation on my part, but I'm just explaining to you why maybe they didn't get it into the first game, because they probably looked at this and said, look, the next gen car is coming, which they also said we're going to get with the first game after the release. At some point, we're going to get those next gen cars. This car is going to be outdated almost by the time this game releases. So to put that effort into coding a whole custom setup thing for a car that's not even going to be part of this series going forward, in very short time, doesn't make sense to me. And if I was a game developer, unless this is something that's easier than I'm thinking, which I don't, I would have made the decision myself. Look, let's do a slider system. We'll come up with, some different setups to make, drastically change the car. Hopefully, each there's 5 presets. And as long as they all have a very different feel from each other, plus the fact that you can still, it's going to be over here. Some of you may have seen it in a different video. I can't go looking around for this stuff because I don't want my laptop to freeze up. Uh, yeah, it's not running right, so I wish I could just jump around and find this stuff. But I'm sure most of you have seen it by now. It's on the lower left hand of the screen here, and you're going to be able to make added adjustments to whatever your presets are. Air pressure, uh, wedge, tape, and also they confirmed you can left change left sides. They said you could do left sides, right sides, all four, or none. So a lot of people have complained about that, not being able to just do left sides. That's been confirmed. Yes, you can. Another thing that's been confirmed that I don't know if I brought up is day to night transitions. Something else people have wanted and talked about for years. Real time day to night transitions. Uh, that's in the game. Um, so yeah, the setup thing is an issue. Like, they're gonna have to provide that, and I really believe they are. It's like it's a no-brainer. But for the first game, I'm just not. It's not bothering me that much. It's gonna bother people. They're gonna complain. They're gonna say things like, it's, how could you not have it? I get it, but for to me, this is an outdated car already. They're going with the next gen car. It's a completely different setup. So for me, unless that it is something easy to just throw in there, then I'm assuming it's not. So that's why I'm okay with it. I know some of you might think, oh, I'm making excuses for these guys. I'm not. I'm just trying to give you a reason why it might not be. I might be wrong. Like, maybe it's in there and they just, we'll find out later. I don't know. So that's one explanation about the custom setups versus the slider system. We also had, the best NASCAR games ever that we still talk about to this day that are over 15 years old. They used the slider system. We didn't have a custom setup thing. Unless I mean, I don't have the best memory. Hope, if I'm wrong, tell me. But I remember it was just a slider system. So it's it's not going to break the, it's not, to me, a game breaking thing for the first game, right? Obviously it has to be implemented going forward, but like I said, next gen car, completely different setups, completely different geometry on the suspension. It's just it's really different. So let's move on from there. The other thing I wanted to talk about was the AI. Now, I'm still concerned about the AI, by the way. I don't want people to think that, I'm, the concerns are gone. They're still there. And to me, the AI is going to be either it's going to make or break the game. If the AI is good, the racing's going to be good. If it's not, it's not, and that's going to be a game breaking issue. But here's what I wanted to show you and talk about real quick. Okay? The first thing that people did notice watching most of the gameplay, plus all the people that played the game and talked about it, was the fact that the cars are more spread out than they should be for a plate race. So before we ever saw any gameplay, I think, we all have this picture in our minds of, plate racing, and we came in there expecting to see these cars in packs, tightly packed, maybe two rows, maybe three. And when we didn't see that, it was such a glaring thing that just like, whoa, what's this? And I think that reaction, it was magnified because it was like, what is this? I don't think this issue is going to be as big of a deal as people think. One, Motorsport Games already confirmed they are working on it. They're still making tweaks. Two, the game was set to medium with assists. And a lot of these racing games, when you decrease the difficulty, the easiest way to make the game easier for people is to spread these cars out, to get some of them to slow down, to create gaps. And I think what they wanted people to experience from a demo is to actually try to make passes. And if they actually had it where these cars were packed, first of all, the demo's 3 laps long. That's it. And if you're in a pack and there's nowhere to go, which is that's what pack racing is. That's what plate racing is. Waiting for an opportunity or trying to force an opportunity. That's not going to be fun. And I think they figured, look, medium settings, assists. This way, these guys could kind of just have some excitement about passing cars. We'll worry about the other stuff going forward for the more realistic stuff. I think they're more worried about giving people those exciting 3 laps. So uh, I think that's a lot of why this thing is like this. So I figured, look, they're gonna fix it, they're gonna tweak it, and they're kind of, there are moments where they line up, but then they get out of the pack. It's almost like something you would expect to see at a non-plate track. But to me, there's some big positives to catch from this, even though the cars do need to be, in a pack. The one notice just the whole field. I want you to see there doesn't seem to be any of these cars that feel like they're artificially in on rails. And I know it's hard to see the because of the lighting, but these cars, they're kind of all over the place and they're making moves. Sometimes they will get behind another car, but then they get out. So, yes, that stuff on a plate track, they have to fix it, and they've already confirmed they are. But to me, there's some big positives here. And to me, the biggest positive is the last thing I wanted to see was cars on rails, or at least that, just visually watching maybe 4 or 5 cars just kind of perfectly, almost like they're just held together by a chain. And we've seen this in earlier Heat games. They definitely got better as they went along, but you can go back to like Heat 2, Heat 3, and you could see clumps of cars, and I'm not even talking about a plate track. I'm talking about like just other tracks where you would see 4 or 5 cars just like a train around other tracks, like a typical mile and a half or something, and they would be clumped up, and then you would see 1 or 2 spread out, but then another small clump, 3 or 4 cars, and they would be in a row. Uh, you guys remember that? That is to me one of the worst things you can have with any AI. It just feels artificial. It just breaks immersion completely because it doesn't look realistic. But here, even though the behavior of the actual plate racing, with where they just stay in a line, even though that's not there and they're gonna fix that, I love the fact that they're moving around. They're not just running on a rail, okay? And if you look at that plane, another great detail that I love. I love details, and it's just every little detail you can add, the more the better. So that's really cool. But looking at these AI cars, and they're kind of like, it's almost like nobody's really holding a rigid line. Like there are moments here. This looks really, typical of a restrictor plate. This isn't actually bad. This is one of the better ones. They're kind of in a pack, but then some of them kind of get out. Look at this guy going up, trying to go underneath, and then he goes back up. They're all kind of like, it's almost like the handling is tough and sometimes at Daytona it could be. There's to me a lot of positives out of this. And like I said, when we saw the original game trailer, remember that there were a lot of cars that just looked like they were on rails, and I really believe that was all from really early development. This is much closer to a release date. I don't think it's going to be that hard for these guys to make sure that these cars are more in a pack formation and tweak what's there. I would have been more concerned if these cars would just look like they were just a freight train and never moving, like just perfectly on rails. I don't want to see that. And at least these cars seem to have life. Everybody's kind of all over the place. And when they make kind of contact, the cars get, squirrely a bit. Now, there is also some inconsistency there. Some of the guys who actually played said that the bump drafting felt good. Other guys had their moments where they said, I kind of really got into someone and I felt like it wasn't as good as it could be. It's inconsistent and it also depends on certain people's, point of view. We saw one footage where there were a couple of cars that got kind of caught up in a wreck and they were just parked in the bottom of the apron. The cautions were off. So there's a lot of things they still need to work on, but I have confidence they can fix that based on a lot of the things that actually work. And you could see the spotters pretty busy, but that's another thing I noticed. There were times he would say you're clear and you weren't. So that needs work. I really need a good spotter in this game. To me, that adds to the immersion. It's also important for those of us who play in cockpit mode. Uh, it's even more important. So hopefully they are going to fix that as well. But the spotter does seem a lot busier. Again, this is all based on text. So I, I I'm actually encouraged by the AI. The more time I've spent watching a lot of this gameplay stuff, the I'm actually feeling better about it and not worse. And like I said, I think the initial reaction by most people, including myself, the first time we saw this was like, this is not what you see at Daytona. Typically, they should be in a pack more. They're kind of too spread out. Um, but Motorsport Games already acknowledged they're fixing it, they're tweaking it. This is not the final product. I'm not worried. I don't know what it is. I feel confident with these guys from what I see. Am I cutting these guys too much slack? Let me know. But I think there's just much more to be encouraged about than discouraged. I get it. People want custom setups. I don't think it's the end of the world for the first game. Just to have that slider system, if they actually make those 5 presets really different from one another, you go in a practice session, you find what works best for you, and then during the race you can fine tune it because you're gonna be able to make those adjustments in race and not have to worry about you know try to hit everything as you go in the pits, and this is so much better. I'm looking forward to that. And I am actually encouraged by the behavior of the AI, not so much the pack stuff, but just the fact that they don't feel like they're on rails. And that's really one of that checks off one of my top concerns based on the game trailer. A lot of that stuff did look like they were kind of on rails. These guys are kind of all over the place. And I'd rather see that, and then they can tweak that, but at least they all feel like there's real individuals driving each specific car. Yeah, there's still tweaks to be made, but I'm encouraged by this. I don't want to see a fucking rail, like where they're perfectly on rails lap after lap, and that to me is encouraging. So, yep, day to night transitions. What else? I think this is pretty much it for now. I'm sure I forgot something, and once I upload the video, I'm gonna be like, oh my god, I forgot to talk about that. But those are my thoughts. I like what I saw today. They confirmed that the tracks are officially scanned. For the most part, these guys have been delivering what we asked for. And to me, what more can you ask for? Then we knew coming in we're not going to get everything on the first game, but they made sure to give us a paint booth. And I know there's a lot of people out there who are like, I didn't care about paint booth. I care more about this. There's always going to be somebody disappointed. My thing is this: the paint booth issue, even if you're somebody who doesn't care, you have to admit it's been on not so much the top, but near the top of everybody's complaint list going back for the entire Heat series. The lack of customization to a car in a NASCAR game to me is a big issue. The whole, this sport is known for having these nice, cool, flashy paint schemes, and to not have the ability to create your own is a big deal. And I'm sorry, in a different game, customization may not be as important, right? But in a NASCAR game, it is, and it's been at the near top of a lot of people's list. And for these guys to come out and say, "Look, let's make sure we address this from the beginning, so that at least people feel like something has been addressed." This is a great decision. By the way, as I said from the start, I think they've been doing a really good job with the marketing. And some people were like, "Oh, the marketing's terrible." And to me, it's not. The fact that this entire community is excited, even people that are kind of concerned or don't always have something good to say, or finding issues, they're excited, they're talking about the game. And I think I haven't seen this level of excitement for a NASCAR game in a long time. So to me, that's a big indication that the marketing is working. Now, yes, they hit a point where they kind of went a little too long with the screenshots and not delivering anything else. But once they came out with that trailer and the other information, the release date, it's just the entire community is just on this game. They're focused. Uh, they're interested. They're talking about it. The marketing has been solid. It hasn't been perfect, but man, this is way better than what 704 Games was doing. So I like most of the moves they made. I agree, and I like what I'm seeing. So it's going to take a few games, I think, to really uh, get to the point where people feel like we're getting everything we want. It's going to take a while. So I think so far they're making the right moves, and I'm looking forward to what's coming. One last point before I go. You also have to keep in mind this first game. This is the first time I think in any sports title, like these yearly sports games all have this thing where the game comes out and it's really a game to hold you over to the next game. It's just supposed to really provide enough entertainment value for that year. And then when the next game comes out, you get that and then you get a whole new, well, you're supposed to get like another experience, right? There's only so much you can do every year and it's the same sport, right? I've never been a fan of yearly sports games, like the way that the business model works, but it is what it is. It's not going anywhere. Um, so this game is going to be now. I can't confirm this, but I'm looking at this like maybe a 9 month cycle because they've already confirmed that the next game is coming out earlier in 2022. Now I don't know when it's coming out, but my guess is somewhere June, July. Because they already said they're curious about a, I don't remember if it was June or July. It was an article that I read, might be the Forbes article, but they said we're very interested to see how that works, how the numbers look. And I think that's what they're aiming for. So it's not a confirmation, but it sounds to me like it's going to be around that time period, which is maybe 3 months earlier. So the cycle of this first game is just really going to be a 9 month cycle. So I'm curious to see how that works. The ultimate goal is that they're trying to shift it closer and closer to the actual start of the season. They've talked about this way back when they first took over. And I think that's the goal, and I think that's the right thing to do. Releasing this game at the end of the season is really not good. And I think that's what they're going to incrementally move it closer and closer. So the second game earlier in 2022, which means yeah, this first game, if it's going to be around for 9 months. Now, I know there's a lot of you who say, "Well, I'm paying $60 for this game." I don't care about that. I get it. I'm not going to argue with you on that. I can't tell you what this game should be worth. I don't even know what this game is yet. I don't mind the $60. I don't mind supporting the company because so far from what I see, they're trying. They're trying to do the right thing. They're putting their money where their mouth is, and you can see the effort. You can feel the effort. So I can always support a company that's legitimately trying. Whereas just go watch what's going on with Madden, with Madden football. So I can support this. Speaking on the price point, anyone who wants to pay $90 to me is insane. It's not about what you can afford. It's a terrible, terrible business model to support. I'm sorry, but an extra 30 dollars for paint schemes and a couple of legend drivers. I'm sorry. I would never pay for that. And I could pay for it. It's not about being able to afford it, but just because you can afford something doesn't mean it's a good idea. $90? No fucking way. I'm never gonna support that. You got to deliver a lot more than that for an extra $30. So to me, $60, I'm good with it. I do not see any value with the extra $30. And unfortunately, that's going to be part of the business model going forward. It's one of those things that it's not going away. But you're the consumer. If you feed into it by spending that extra $30 for something that you know it's not worth it, then you are part of the problem. So I do not suggest anybody spend 90 championship whatever. And I'm sorry. I know that Motorsport Games doesn't want to hear that. This isn't good for their bottom line, but I'm sorry. It's just not worth it. and this shit gets worse every year. And I just hope that the microtransaction stuff. I mean, I don't know where that's going, but it is what it is. So those are my thoughts. Um, really excited so far about everything. I know there's a couple of things people are going to be disappointed with, but for a first game, I like where they're going with this. And I just wanted to point out that yes, there are issues with the AI, but there are also some really good things there. The behavior of the AI and the physics, right? I know physics are hard to judge just looking at a screen, but I'm not even talking about the physics of the player's car. I'm talking about just the physics of the other cars and how they behave around each other. I am so happy not to see so far anything that looks like just perfect on rails behavior. That doesn't mean that's not in the game. We may see future gameplay videos that show disturbing, uh, on rails type behavior. But just judging what I see so far, I'm encouraged. This is fixable. You can pull these guys together in a pack. Maybe, at a higher difficulty with the assist. So, there's a lot they can do. They can fix this. This is all fixable. But getting these cars to feel and look like they're not on rails, just pre-programmed rigid rails, that's a hard thing to do. And I saw a lot of, you know, it almost looked like something you would see online with people playing each other. That's encouraging, and I like that. That watching cars on perfect rails behind each other is not immersive. It reminds you that you're watching something that's not real. The behavior in this footage, these cars are moving around a lot. They're squirrely. They're just, I like that. There's a lot to be encouraged about that. So those are my thoughts. I look forward to your comments. Let me know what you think. And, when there's more information, I'll talk about it then. I'm sure I missed something I wanted to talk about, but I did want to mention the day to night transitions are confirmed. I did want to touch on the setups and the reasoning why we may not get custom setups. You may not be okay with that, and I get it. I'm not going to argue with people who think that's a game breaking issue. I just don't think it is. I'm okay with it. And like I said, some of the best NASCAR games we've ever had were just based on a slider. If this is just something early on as they build, I don't have a problem with it. So, oh, one last thing just hit me. I did that I wanted to talk about the online racing. There's from what I mean, I don't know what's been confirmed or not, but most people are saying there's not going to be private lobbies. That that could be a game breaking issue, especially if you're somebody who only cares about multiplayer online. That is something that if I was one of those people, which I'm not, I would be concerned with. And it might be an issue that is like, maybe I'm not going to buy the game because I want to run private lobbies, I want to run my own league. So that's a big issue. And I wanted to put that out there because I know I'm not really big on the online racing stuff. And it's only fair to bring it up. And I could totally get it. If you're an online guy and you don't care about offline, that might be something that keeps you from buying the game. I don't know how hard is that? Like, you got to be able to provide a private lobby for people where they can race their friends and not have just this random lobby stuff because it's going to be a disaster. Oh, and on the positive note, they also confirmed that uh, they're going to have new servers. Everything's going to be based on a whole new. It's not going to be. They're not going to be using the 704 servers with the Heat series stuff, and hopefully that translates to a cleaner connections and not having the lag issues and all this other stuff that was a problem with the Heat series. Because if and these guys are esports people, you can't have esports competition on a substandard server system. So that's a positive thing for online guys. Hopefully that all works out. Just keep in mind that a lot of times when a game's released, like on release day, there are a lot of times there's always issues with online. So don't be surprised if, like, when this game releases, that there are issues with the servers or online racing. So just keep that in mind. I don't know if I've ever seen a game that just runs perfectly online on day one. So I would expect going in that they're going to have to fix bugs, issues, glitches, and issues with the servers. It might take a while to get that stuff sorted out. Just keeping it in mind. That's what I normally see with most games. But yeah, no private lobbies, that is a huge problem. And it might be considered a game breaking issue for online gamers. So glad I remembered that before I signed off. I look forward to your comments as always. And when more information comes out, I'll be back on later.